Stanley's a wild man. He's out there in short shorts, riding like a crazy person. Not me. I'm too old for this. I put shorts on. Shout out Stanley, because Stanley was wearing shorts in his crazy video, and I was a sissy and put on tack pants in the last one.
Oh boy.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Let's go. Come on.
So I've been gone. You know, haven't posted much in the last 3-4 months. I have been full-time, university, electrical engineering. It's been difficult, but we're back. Exams finished like 2-3 weeks ago. Thing is, if you thought that I was actually studying the entire time, you don't know me. Actually, full redesigns of everything. XR boxes, GT boxes, foot pads, tweaks, you know, new parts, new systems entirely. Just ground up overhaul of everything. It's been a lot, but pretty much done. And now I just need to actually get it out the door, which is the hard part. Why redesign stuff though? What's the point? So my last casings that I put out, you know, the special GT ones that make it thinner, all of the XR stuff, I was making very small amounts of that, and I was using more grounded, like more low-level DIY techniques, like using, you know, cut neoprene foam for gaskets and, you know, just inserts everywhere. And the only way I could get aluminium at the time was with like a local laser cutting service. It was just gross. This stuff, way cleaner. I'm so much happier with it, and considering how much more interest there is now in these designs, thanks to, you know, them, makes sense to revamp everything. But you'll notice I've got 3 casings here, and usually there's only 2. So, you know, what's going on? XR and GT, I'll be coming out with battery casings. This is not the battery casing. I'll be coming out with the battery casing, of course, same as usual. Controller casing, sticks to a lot of my design features, but with, you know, all the upgrades. And then I'm also making sim casings. So sim casings are for symmetrical designed one wheels. Ones either still with the controller in the front, but with just much more volume, or using the fusion core. But I'll get into that at the end. I'm going to throw this over here for now, and I'm going to start with the most basic, but still pretty sweet. It is the GT VOW battery casing. So this bad boy is now rocking a machined lid. Again, the same nylon carbon fiber 3D printed casing, which is, it's tough. But the difference is, instead of having a neoprene foam gasket and just inserts everywhere, like my last designs had, we've got a machined aluminium lid with tacked threads instead. So this time around, it's all bolted, like the standard stock GT casing from Future Motion. It's all bolted from the underside, and then the bolts go up into the lid. So if you just give me a second, let's get this or something. That's us. Yep. So you'll notice M4 tapped threads all around for the attachment to the casing, and then standard M5 size for attachment to the rail. The inside of the casing is pretty much identical to the size of the previous one. You'll notice instead that we have a gasket instead. This time to seal the casing, it's a 3D printed TPU 75A durometer gasket, which I found to be a little bit harder than the gaskets used by the Float Life and Future Motion. It's still extremely effective. I've submerged these casings for hours underwater, completely sealing the whole gasket area, and it has just been 0 water ingress. They've tested excellently. So I'm super happy with these. Of course, because they're printed, they just drop right into place. So, you know, they match everything excellently. M20 cable gland for your battery harness out to your controller. GX16 charge port. There's a breathe patch right here for, you know, waterproofing, doing the Badger test, that kind of thing. LED window at the tail. I added a little notch in the middle to just give extra support across this bridge here because those were flexing quite a bit more than I wanted. And then there's also two little nubs here for you to glue or attach LEDs to this area however way you want. It's worth noting that this casing though, due to this extra room needed for the gasket and the bigger bolts, it is slightly thinner widthways by a few millimeters than the V1 version. So it's going to be much harder to fit a 20S2P battery using 21700 cells. All of those sorts of details you can read up on in the system guide, which is on my website and on the Discord, that kind of thing. That just goes through everything a bit more technically here. Now, whilst the battery was pretty similar to the last one, the controller is completely different. So it's got a notch here for the foot pad and the motor install, but this side is much larger than the last design, and it's basically the same geometry as the battery casing, but just on this side of it. I don't know if I'll make that comparison here. Yeah, there you go. So there's the lids, just showing off how that works. And what this is doing is giving us way more internal volume. And of course, as my casings go, it's a three-piece system. So there is a access lid on the underside, a casing wall section in the middle, and then the heatsink or main lid underneath all of that. And that just lets us use materials in the most efficient way. But I'll just get the access lid off here, and then I'll be able to show you the inside. You'll notice the access lid has a big notch on it, so that's for a 6S2P 21700 split pack. And what that lets you do is make a 24S2P system with an 18S2P battery in the middle, which is what this system's designed around. So you'll see there is a gasket on the inside here, 4 mounting holes for the Tronic X12, and then a huge amount of room down the side here for a 6S2P battery. The handle's a fair bit bigger than the last design, and yeah, just enormously more volume for much bigger split pack and the large size of the Tronic X12. There's of course a M20 cable gland hole here, and then the mounting position for the push button. Due to the width of the split pack, if you are installing one, I'd recommend to use one of the shorter 12mm push buttons, because those won't intrude onto the split pack as much. Other than, you know, as opposed to the large, like 30mm long ones, because those can be pretty difficult to fit by comparison. So, the last piece, now this is the most exciting in my opinion, is the SIM casing. The SIM casing is designed for symmetrical boards, ones that have an equal number of batteries on the front and the back, or at least aiming for an equal amount of volume. Of course, you can see the difference here between the battery and then the SIM casing. The battery has a notch here for the charge port, and it's designed to be mounted at the back, whereas the SIM casing is designed to be mounted at the front and has 2 cable glands for your motor and your battery input. Because of the way the GT is designed, it's slightly thinner in order to accommodate the bolts at the front of the board's rail. It does require the use of a second tail bumper, so you need to buy 2 sets of bumpers. I think bash bumpers can be bought separately, but you know, I've bought 2 sets of bang bumpers to pull this off. And another excellent thing is W rails from the Float Life have 2 insert points, so it's pretty easy to attach a rear bumper to the front, which is just fantastic design. Extra stuff you'll notice, push button is still there. In order to get the same volume on the inside, you need to use a short format push button. It's one of the short 12mm thin push buttons. This has like a very small amount of actuation, you know. It's just a tiny little press because of how thin it is. But that lets you use the entire inside of the volume for your battery. The other thing that's important is how you get extra accessories to be wired to the inside of this. Because you're going to need foot pads, you might want to attach lights or something extra. So because of that, thanks to the excess size of the GT, you have 2 extra M6 cable glands underneath the M20s as well. So this lets you, I don't have one here, this lets you have a Gillette cable. That's what I've used, one of like the e-bike waterproof small format cables just stick out of this, and that can be attached for your foot pad. And There's an extra side here, of course it's symmetrical, so you could have accessories attached to this like push glows or extra lights, something or other, you know, or if you don't want to use this output, then you can just use an M6 bolt instead, and those will be included with the kit for this as well. That being said, the GT Mushies front foot pad, this one isn't finished, it's just come off the printer, that has an extra modification to its channel now, so its foot pad plug channel goes all the way out much further around the corner so that it suits using these small cable glands. If this foot pad was mounted, you'd be able to run your foot pad plug out around the motor plug and then up into here as well. And then the last thing about this casing is that its cable glands are angled such that if you used 2 superflux plugs on either side, or just one, you know, for your motor, they're not going to interact with the rail. So this still works with the superflux motor, and it's possible to do crazy configurations with this casing. You can have the X12 mounted in the front with a 12S 2P split pack and 18 in the tail, and that gets you a 30S 2P 21700 system, which you could do alongside a Mark 1 Superflux for like the most ridiculous build ever. What I'm doing personally is a massive flight board, one with batteries in modules in the front and the back, and then that gets you a ridiculous 32S 2P with P45B cells. So, you know, of course that requires the fusion core, but you know, that's what's possible with these casings. Again, bit of a recap. Battery casing can be used with both the controller and the sim casing. Controller, it's intended for 24S2P Tronic X12 builds with a 6S 2P split pack in the front. And then the sim casing is intended for symmetrical builds using the fusion core, or a very heavy split pack system with a large number of cells in the back, a large number in the front. Both of these require an incredible amount of DIY, but of course the sim system takes the most. Other stuff that I have for the GT as well, the fusion core of course requires a Cannon core motor, and there's no hub blocks for Cannon core to GT up until now. What I've designed is an adapter that lets you use XR Cannon core hubs and just attach GT rails directly to them. Been using them for the last few days. They are amazing. So, you know, they give you like 3 extra ride heights. I'll rip them out of that board later to get, you know, some good pictures. I'll probably have them playing over, but yeah, so that's the extra GT thing. And apart from that, and of course the update to the Mushies design with these extra channel, that's it. Everything else is the same. If you did buy the V1 casings that I had available earlier in the year, and you're interested in this over what you purchased before, just reach out to me. I'll try and get everyone fixed up with casings at material cost if you're happy with that. I feel that that's a pretty fair deal. So, you know, because of course these don't make any of my old casings obsolete. They're still great, but I felt that it was a good idea to improve the craftsmanship. So, you know, there you go. That's that for now. Woo-wee. Yep. Gonna be weird for the rest of the year. Try and not kill yourselves. It's gonna be like 30S 2P boards that are just, no, don't do it. Don't do it, it's pointless.